We spent $13,000 on something we thought would completely change our lives going RVing full-time. And for a while, we thought that was the best decision we had ever made.
Until one night, we're sitting outside enjoying a peaceful evening. Bob's cooking dinner, and somebody drove up and said, "Hey, do you want some drugs?"
And that's when it hit us. This was going to be like nothing we had seen on YouTube videos.
So last week we shared with you on our decision to become Florida residents and not Texas residents.
And honestly, that felt like a huge win for us. We were finally moving forward.
But what we hadn't figured out yet was how were we going to actually live on the road? Where were we going to stay? How much was this going to cost? And was it actually going to be sustainable?
And that is when we came across something that sounded way too good to be true. When we first started researching full-time RV life, we did probably what most of you are doing right now, and that is research. And our research had dragged us to, well, YouTube of all places. And just like what you're experiencing right now, we went down that deep rabbit hole trying to find out everything that we could to find out if this lifestyle was going to even be possible.
And during that time, full-time RV content was everywhere. I mean, there's people traveling the country, living that freedom lifestyle. And you know what? It was pretty inspiring.
And there was one thing that kept coming up over and over and over again in those videos, and that was 1,000 trails.
And the way it was presented, it was like a cheat code, a membership to nationwide RV parks. Now, this membership said it allowed you to stay in the most beautiful locations around the country for what seemed like a really insane low price.
The videos were intense. People were so happy. The views were amazing. Everybody was living a beautiful life. Can someone please help me up? I'm stuck.
Good Lord. And the best part, this system has been around since the 1970s, which I mean, so have Bob and I, so it had to be legit and great, right?
The concept of the program was simple enough. Depending on what level of membership you buy, you could travel throughout the country in over 180 parks, and you can stay up to 21 nights at each place and then move on to the next one. All in all, a very simple process.
There's a little more to it than that, but for us, that was enough. We were sold.
But hell, we didn't consider it, not by a long shot. We bought it. We bought the whole thing. We bought the adventure package from 1,000 Trails, and we didn't buy it new. We saved a whole bunch of money buying it on the secondary market, but here we were about ready to make the biggest change we have made so far.
So we paid $13,000 up front. Now per year we pay approximately $1,600 for dues, and that includes the Trails collection. So in our heads, the first year basically paid for itself, and after that we figured it out, and we're basically camping for $4 a night.
Now my cheap ass thought, wow, we have cracked the system. We made our purchase, all the paperwork, all in, took about 3 months. And the timing, like a message from the heavens above, was perfect. We walked out with our membership intact, completed, just as we were getting ready to leave Splash RV Resort. Talk about a win.
So what do we do next? Well, we do what everybody does. You go to Facebook, and we joined every single 1,000 Trails page we could find. And then finally it happened. We were approved, one right after another. And we're looking, and we're both looking at each other going, oh my gosh, this is just not looking and sounding like 1,000 Trails whatsoever. What was portrayed is not what's coming across here on the Facebook.
People weren't just complaining. Hell, they were angry. They were vicious, because they were talking about how they were misled by their sales reps, how every park was in disrepair, and management at all of these parks, hell, they were non-existent at all. They had felt like they were lied to, and they were voicing their opinions in what seemed like the thousands. And the comment that hit us the hardest, and I'll never forget this one. This one said that these parks were nothing more than glorified trailer parks. That was a kick in the throat if we ever had one, because we had already spent our money, we had already signed the documents, we were 100% invested in Thousand Trails.
But now that leaves us questioning everything.
And we booked our very first stay here at Thousand Trails Orlando. Now that 7-hour drive, however, from Crestview to here was one of the longest and quietest we've ever experienced.
We were both trying to stay positive for each other, and we didn't want to say the words out loud, but those words were, did we just waste $13,000?
And we finally pulled into Thousand Trails Orlando, and everything that we had read was running through our minds. The long wait times, the poor park management, everything like that. And keep in mind, this was also during a time when it was first come, first serve. So if you didn't get there first, you were told you weren't going to get a site.
And sure enough, we pull in and there's a line. Now we were probably, I don't know, I'd say around 15th in that line. And we're waiting and we're watching people come and go. And then we both looked at each other and we had this expression on our faces, both of us like, what did we just get ourselves into?
Oh my God, I remember sitting there in that line thinking, this is it. This is the moment we find out, did we just waste all our money?
And then we get to the check-in and we were greeted by a super friendly park ranger who asked, hey, have you been here before? And we're like, no. So she's like, okay, follow me for a little bit. And we get down the end of the road and we're kind of looking at the sights. As she hops out of her golf cart and she runs over to the truck and she's like, well, I have this, 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 and this available. But I'm like, well, we've never been here before, so we don't know. So she goes, get in the golf buggy. Well, she called it a golf cart. I call it a golf buggy. And she took me around with Bob following her until we found our spot that we were going to be in for the next 3 weeks.
And after we were all done being set up, I remember this like it was yesterday. We stood outside the RV and we just kind of took a deep breath and we looked around. The place isn't new. It's not fancy. It sure as hell wasn't Splash RV Resort, but it also wasn't a disaster like everyone said. It was somewhere right in the middle.
So we stayed for our 3 weeks, and honestly, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't amazing. It was just okay. It was fine. And that's when things started to shift. Maybe we didn't make a mistake.
And then we did it. We booked 2 Encore parks in the Florida Keys. This is it. This was the moment we had been waiting for.
Our first stop in the Keys was Sunshine Key RV Resort in Marina. And let me tell you, wow, just wow. This place was absolutely incredible. There's water everywhere. You can see little sand sharks when you go over by the marina, and you wake up every morning to the most amazing sunrise. And we can't forget the sunsets, but the sunrises there are to die for.
You wake up every morning and you're surrounded by that water, and the iguanas, oh my God, they're huge and they just roam freely around the property. Hell, they even look like they've taken over the place.
And the sunsets, oh my God, I know I mentioned this earlier, but you have never experienced a sunset like you would have in the Florida Keys.
On our last night there, cold Corona in hand, we both looked at each other with that look in our eyes that only 2 young lovers could have, and we said, this is it. This is the experience and the lifestyle that we signed up for.
And then we moved to Fiesta Key RV Resort in Marina, and this place had a little bit of a different vibe. So it was still clean, The pool was still nice. The sites were kind of close together, but it had more of a party vibe, in my opinion.
Now, we spent about a month in the Keys, and honestly, it was some of our best memories of our entire journey, even till this day.
So now we're thinking, this works. We made the right decision. And then everything shifted.
And then we arrived at Encore Terra Ceia. And as if something was written out of a poorly timed horror movie, we looked around in what was going to be our home for the next 2 weeks. We pulled in, the office was closed. It's 2 o'clock on a Saturday. There's nobody around, just a piece of paper. They had assigned our sites, and this, we just sat there looking at each other in complete and utter silence.
This can't be right. It looked like someone's driveway right at the entrance.
And when Carrie says right at the entrance, that's no joke. There was just basically a side road right next to us. There's no gates, no nothing, just boom. And we started looking around and we noticed something. We noticed a lot of political flags. We noticed a lot of rundown trailers. We noticed a lot of trailers, at least 4 of them, had tarps over their roofs, just kind of keeping the water and the environment out. This wasn't something that we were used to, and it felt like a neighborhood, and not the neighborhood you want to hang out with for 2 weeks with your brand new equipment.
And then, while we're outside cooking dinner, someone drives in, stops at our site, and rolls down the window, yes, rolls down the window, and goes, "Hey, you looking for a good time, or looking to have a good time," was his words. And we both, Bob and I, looked at each other like, what? Like, what? And he's like, "Hey, do you want to buy some?"
That's right, there we were on the side of someone's house, parked behind a Dollar General about 15 feet from their dumpster, and here was a guy in his 1987 Hotmobile going, "Hey, do you want to buy drugs?" And that's the moment that everything clicked. The crap that we read online, it was real, and it was happening to us.
We were scheduled there for 2 weeks, but we left after 1 as soon as Bob had a day off. And we both said to each other, we would never be back to that park ever again.
So we did it. We called Thousand Trails and said, "Hey, put us anywhere on the Gulf Coast. We don't care where. Just find us something different than where we're at." And they said, no problem. They sent us to Crystal Isle in Crystal River, Florida.
Now at this point, we're really nervous because we have seen both sides and we're both like, what are we driving into this time?
The drive there, it was awkward. We were both trying to stay positive for each other, but deep down, we were worried. In fact, we were scared. What if this wasn't just a one-off or two-off thing? What if this was the norm? What if everything we were reading was correct? We had already spent this money and we were totally, well, stuck. And we pull in and then it hit us. Boom. This place was perfect. Small community feel, events going on like crazy, a full calendar, mind you, and the staff was absolutely amazing. But it did have us wondering even more, what the hell did we buy? Which one is it? It can't be like this everywhere, can it?
And that's when it hit us. Thousand Trails isn't good. It's not bad. It's both.
And then at that moment, we realized something. Some parks are great. Some parks, well, they're not. And most are going to be right in the middle.
It was exactly that. It wasn't like YouTube. It wasn't like Facebook. It was right here. It was right in the middle.
And over the last 4 years, we've learned how to use Thousand Trails. It's not perfect, but it's a tool to have in your arsenal when you're traveling around the country. And for $4 a night, that makes it very hard to beat.
And once you learn to manage your expectations, it works.
And just as we were starting to figure all of this out, something else was happening that we did not expect at all.
We were starting to get on each other's nerves real bad. Now, you are not really gonna wanna miss next week's video.
Well, if you haven't already, we ask that you subscribe to the channel, especially if you're enjoying this series of videos. Join the community of almost 41,000 subscribers. Can you believe that I attracted that many people to the channel all by myself?
It's not you, it's me.
Until next time, I am Bob. That's
Carrie.
We do
Really?
stand side by side every once in a while. And once in a while, I let her speak. Until next time.
Ooh. Bye.